One of my first notable projects was the Dana Carvey Show. That was sort of an ill-fated but fun show to work on that unfortunately was on right after Full House. And it had very edgy humor, so this particularly edgy comedy show didn't carry well from that audience. But that was a project where I met a lot of comedians and made really great connections on that particular project. I met Steve Colbert, Steve Carell, Louis C.K. was on that show, Robert Smigel, who you might know as the guy who does Triumph, the insult comic dog. Vomito Pupan! That guy.
Did you kind of have a sense of like, yeah, the general public probably isn't going to get this comedy, or did you have any thoughts at all as you were cutting that show?
So, the Dana Carvey Show, everybody who was on that show, they all came from the world of SNL, Saturday Night Live, and that was a 90-minute show. And this, Dana Carvey Show, was a half hour.
This is just such a weird feeling. It's we're putting on a show that hasn't been seen in prime time in many years. It's going to be what Johnny Carson would say, a little irreverent, a little wild.
The problem was they wanted it to be topical, like Saturday Night Live was, and they wanted it to be in front of a live audience, and they wanted it to be 90 minutes, which it wasn't going to be. The show aired Tuesday nights. They would shoot on Sunday, a dress rehearsal, and then an actual show. And it was done at, this was pre-digital days, so it was all done on D2 tapes. And then Sunday night, some poor assistant would have to come into the edit suite and digitize off tape both shows, which ran way over, usually ran about 90 minutes. And then Monday morning, I showed up and I worked straight through until Tuesday morning, through the night. And it was all about getting it down to time. The problem with comedy is that it's often does require a little bit of setup for it to be funny. And so when I watch that show, I cringe because I feel like a lot of the stuff is just sort of going by too fast to really appreciate the humor of it. Some of it landed, some of it didn't. In a pre-digital age, to shoot on Sunday, load the tapes, do all the editing for over one day, and then literally have to online it and do the audio mix, and then air it that Tuesday night was insanity. I could stay up 24 hours without a problem. I could not stay up 48 hours to oversee every single step of it. Although I would often get phone calls like 2 hours before it was about to air. So it was just super stressful for everybody, and it's not surprising that they pulled the plug on it. At least SNL, they air it, and if there's a mistake, people giggle about it and they move on. This, this was an edited show, so yeah. So it was sort of fun, but kind of a nightmare.
Later on Nightline, Dana Carvey talks about his canceled television show. The fledgling comedy series was yanked from ABC's primetime schedule 17 minutes into its initial broadcast.